Okay, so I want to welcome everyone to week 37, I think, of xEssentials. We've had a number of great presentations from everyone, and this week, nothing short of the best for y'all. We have Walter and Jackie Monkhouse, who are going to be presenting on overcoming the wrath of Mother Nature's winds. This was the best presentation that I went to at Christmas Expo. It was really great. They took what could have been a boring topic and made it extremely exciting, entertaining, and educational. So without further ado, I present Walter and Jackie Monkhouse.
Well, hello out there in xEssentials land. We're honored to be able to come on here and share some of the things that we've learned throughout the years. And it's been a lot of years, too. We picked up a thing here, a thing there, but one thing that's really common, every year it happens. Along in November and early December, the weather starts changing, and the winds start coming down the plains, these northwesters, these northeasters, and right on Facebook, you'll see it, just right on schedule. Hell, my mega tree is down and can't get up. You hear it over and over and over. All props get blown over and everything. And what it is, it's Mother Nature just doing her thing. Mother Nature, in all of her glory and beauty, can be ugly to a Christmas light display. Let's take a look at some of Mother Nature. There she is right there, blowing. Now, a lot of times I start this off with an ear of corn, and I'll shuck the ear of corn and I'll say, look, ear of corn has about 800 kernels in it. But it only takes one kernel to grow a whole other stalk of corn that'll produce 2 or 3 years. Why does Mother Nature do this? Mother Nature does more than is necessary. You see it every day. It's permeated through everything. And so I think it would be good if in preparing our displays, maybe we did more than is necessary. You've heard, if you can't beat them, join them. Well, that applies here big time. You really need to join Mother Nature because you're not going to beat her. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Some tips and tidbits of how to overcome these winds that are going to be destructive of possible destruction to your display. So we see Mother Nature blowing right there, and there is a tree. It looked like a Christmas tree to me. Put some bells on there, put a few lights on there, you would probably have a very nice Christmas tree. It's got a nice shape to it, pretty. One thing, though, that's a natural tree right there, but there's something different about that. Mother Nature did not put any guy wires on that tree. So there's got to be a secret in there somewhere. Well, Mother Nature put her guy wires there at the bottom. Of course, everybody knows the tree has roots, and there are different kind of roots. There are tap roots, there are spread roots and everything. So Mother Nature incorporated that in to hold that tree up, and she's been pretty successful at doing it. Well, quite a few years ago, about 15 years ago, we copied Mother Nature. We made a thing called a portable hole. And you can see our root system here like is a lot to be desired. It's a little sloppy there. That was our first one, and that was the first portable hole, as a matter of fact. Since then, we've condensed it down and made it smaller. Now, you'll notice right beside it, right behind it there's an implant in the ground. Now, I have about 12 of these implants in the ground all everywhere. They're just everywhere. How many of them do I use every year for our display? None. Zero. Because as the years change, as your Christmas display evolves, you're going to move something a foot this way, 2 feet over here, backwards, forward. So none of these implants fit anymore now. The implant's great, because that's an example of a good taproot system. So we had to come up with a way to be able to adapt to the changing conditions of our display. We worked on that. We tweaked it a little bit, and we finally got it down to something like this, which is quite efficient. You can see the root system there, and I'm going to call those stakes and the turnbuckles and the little spring clips there holding that down. That's the root system. Here's another picture of an implant. Implants are strong. They work good, but They're not always where you want them to be. Well, that worked very good for us. We were able to move the display around in parts, so we got kind of cocky on it, and we're going to build a bigger one. Here we are testing. Here's a picture of us testing a 20-foot high pole on a portable hole. I'm pulling right there. You can probably see me pulling right there. I'm pulling with all my might. Now, I'm a big old boy. I weigh about 200 and something pounds. And I could not even start to topple that. So if the portable hole is properly anchored with a good root system, it's going to stay with you. It's not going anywhere. All right. Well, like I say, that worked good, and we got a little cocky. Said we're going to get up higher. So we went further with the thing. We made an HD portable hole. It's 2 layers. My goodness. What in the world would that do? Well, that got us up 36 feet high. And I'm flying high here, but there's one thing that we begin to realize here is that once you reach a certain height, the thing becomes unstable. The pole is up there. It's a smaller diameter pole. It needs help. Actually, we use part of that HD system to get this for our mega tree here for 25 feet high. The main mega tree is about 25, 26 feet high, no guy wires. We don't use guy wires on it at all. It's withstood every wind you can throw with us. I'd put it up against anything. Also, I want to throw in here, though, I say no guy wires. Each one of James's strips on that tree is good for 70 pounds. I don't know if y'all know that. So that's a lot of guy wiring actually going on there. And we can talk more about that later. All right, where are we at? So here is an ASAP mounted on the portable hole, up about 19 and a half, 20 feet high. That's right dead center in our yard. And I don't know if anybody can see the guy wires on it or not. They don't show up too well there. I think we got it here where they do. Now, there the guy wires, got 3 guy wires on it coming down. And take a look at the angle they're coming down, and there we put red tape on there. Now, personally, I do not like guy wire. That's why, how many times have I run into that and hit my neck on that? I just don't like them. They're always in the way for some reason. I've got to move this up, so y'all bear with me. Here we go. So we're going to be talking about guy wires. All right. What are guy wires made out of? We're going to answer that. How are they connected? How many are needed? How long should they be? And how are they tensioned? These are some of the common questions that people have about guy wires. Simplest guy wire is a rope. Take a piece of paracord. A lot of people use paracord. Look at it. It's black. Doesn't show up very much. It's strong. Make 110-pound working pressure on that. That's good stuff. Give that to my worthy assistant here to put up. Another one would be solid braid nylon. This one happens to be white. It does come in black, so it doesn't show, but this is a 1/4 inch, I believe. Very strong. Good stuff. Makes good guy wires. Another one, how about poly rope? Poly rope works well. Does one common thing to all of these, though, they're inexpensive, they're easy to handle, easy to work with. Some of the disadvantages, stretch, the sun will degrade them, and visibility. A lot of times they're visible in your display, and that's another reason why I don't like guy wires, because I don't want to see a wire out there distracting from all of Jackie's fabulous sequencing. I knew they'd get a laugh out of you there. All right, how about wire, rope, or cable rather than rope? Let's take a look at some cable here. Here is a 1/16 inch cable. I've painted it black. You can see where probably the black starts, and it's shiny. You can paint these, and they become virtually invisible. And this is a little 1/16 inch piece. Here is one a little bit bigger. I believe that's a 3/32. Same thing. You can see it's shiny right there, and then it gets black right here. It's easy to paint this. Here's a little Rust-Oleum, fat protective enamel. Spray them down, and they'll disappear in the night. You notice the working loads on these things. 3/32 is probably the one that most people use, 184 pounds of working load, and that's good for 1,000 pound breaking strength. That's pretty good stuff. Of course, 1/8 of an inch, look at that, breaking at 2,000. That's some pretty good stuff. A 16th can be used too. I find 16th a little hard to work with, but it's possible to do pretty good with that too. All right, how do you cut this wire rope? Give me one of those back. Give me that big one. Give me that big one. There's a lot of ways to cut it. The first thing you want to do before you make a cut on, tape it. Get some electrical tape. Tape it. Keep it from fraying. You can cut it with dikes. Up to about 1/8 of an inch. It cuts pretty easy. You can do it. See if we look at there. I cut right through the tape. So now I don't have anything sticking me, holding that. So that's a pretty good tip there. Remember that. Tape it first, then cut it. You get on up to some of the higher, go ahead and take care of that. If you get up to some of the bigger stuff, 1/8 of an inch and all that, you might need a pair of these bolt cutters. Good to have some bolt cutters around the house anyway, to cut bolts and different things. But don't forget to tape that wire rope. It'll keep it from sticking you and keep it from fraying. Now, let's talk about some wire rope end connections. One of the most common one is a thimble on the end. That's a thimble. This is not sewing class, but that's a thimble. I don't know why they call it a thimble, but they do. You can see I've got it connected there. And there's an art to doing this. You just don't throw these in there anyway. I've seen this done where they rotated them. They put them in which way but loose. There is a way to do that. Also, eye bolt. You can don't hesitate to take a piece of cable and attach an eye bolt to it. Pretty neat, especially you can hook on a topper on a hook you got up there and go on down, and it works real good. You see that? An eye bolt. Also, how about a J hook? You can do the same thing. There's a J hook. Now you may see on the screen there a quick lock. We were going to show that at the expo, the quick lock. I do not have one here to show you, but you can go online and look for quick lock. It's an easy way to connect the ends, very easy. All right, the thimble. We're going to talk more about that thimble. Incidentally, here is a whole guy wire. Got a thimble on the end with 3 clamps. And got that eye bolt on the end. See the thing? This is one of the guy wires we use. Very handy there. The thimble protects the cable from smashing, and it preserves the working load. That's what the thimble is all about. And there is a right and a wrong way to utilize a thimble to hook it up. If you'll notice there on the screen, the cable is bent around a thimble, and the saddle is on the live end. That's the working end. The end that's folded over is called the dead end. If you notice, the U-bolt goes on the dead end, and the saddle of the clamp goes underneath there on the live end. That is the correct way to install a thimble or anything else on wire rope. That way it won't slip. And a good way to remember that, when you're talking here, you're talking saddle, and you're talking dead end. If you look at all that, never saddle a dead horse. If you remember that, you'll always connect it together right. Never saddle a dead horse. Okay, other rope end connections. I kind of jumped the gun and showed you those a while ago. I showed you the eye bolt, the J hook, the guy with the eye and the thimble. All those are some pretty handy little concoctions. They'll come in pretty handy from time to time, depending on what you're trying to hook guy wires to. Okay, some pole clamps for guy wire attachment. Some of them are available from Christmas Light Show. They have a 3-eye and a 4-eye. I don't have a picture of those Christmas Light Show, and 3G. both have those. Go online for both of those. They clamp to the pole. They've got the eyes there already. It's easy to connect the guy wire to. Tensioning the cable. So you got your cable there, and you got a stake in the ground. How about a turnbuckle? Turnbuckle is very, I keep putting it on the screen. I need to put it up here where everybody can see it. Here is a pretty heavy-duty turnbuckle. This is a 7-incher. They come in a lot of different sizes. It's got a hook on the end, an eye there. It's got a spring connector on this end right here. Like I say, these come in a lot of different sizes. Here's some other sizes right here. Here's a one. Some of these come in actually very small. I got an eye here and a hook here. Let me tell you, do yourself a big favor. Buy one with 2 hooks. A lot easier. You don't have to go through an eye. This works a lot better. And I don't know if I ought to say this or not, but I don't know, 2 hookers are better than 1 hooker. Jackie I'll probably have to answer for that later. I don't know. I don't hear anything out there. So they're muted. Y'all are muted? Okay, y'all are muted. So we'll do all the laughing on this end. But anyway, a turnbuckle is a good way to go. Another way to go is that people, I don't think they use them too much in the Christmas light community, is a ratchet strap. I don't know why they don't use them. Ratchet straps fool a lot of people. They see this contraption and they get confused since you don't do it every day. They don't know how to quite use it. And I won't tell you there's a secret to using a ratchet strap. It comes like that, and then this may come separate, not install the other end of the strap. Here's the secret to a ratchet strap. Open it all the way up. It's all the way open. Now, what you want to do, ratchet it just a little bit to where you can see the slot. See that slot in there? Make sure it's all the way open. It's really very, very simple, very effective, and very, very economical in place of a turnbuckle. You slip the strap through the slot there, pull it. Ratchet straps are made to be to take up the slack. Here, you hold that in, I'll hold this in, and we're going to take up the slack. Then we'll put it in action. Look at that. You tighten it right on up. And that's all there is to that. Nothing to it. But remember, the key, open that rascal all the way up till you see the slot. Stick it in, ratchet it up. You see here a picture of the ratchet strap on a spiral in the ground. And there's quite a bit of tension pulled on that right there. We'll talk more about that in a minute because we're going to talk about, first thing we're going to talk about is stakes, not the kind you eat, but the kind you drive in the ground. Stakes, plastic stakes. This is a plastic stake. It's a pretty good size one. This is what I would use as a minimum. I've seen people use little small stakes that pull out of the ground. Oh, one of the most common things that happens when the winds come blowing and crops fall, mega trees fall, matrices fall, anchors come out of the ground. So what you've got down in that ground, that counts big time, just as much as the guy wire, if not more, it counts. Then your attachments to the guy wire and all that. This is very important. This is a pretty good stake right here. But still, I don't know. I used to use these. I would not take a chance with a stake like that anymore. So we use a pretty good size stakes. This one right here is a piece of rebar. This rebar right here is 2.5 feet long and 3/4 of an inch. It's pretty hefty. Does a good job holding. Put it in at a 45-degree angle. That's your best bet. You know the rebar has all those ridges in it. That's there to hold concrete. It also helps embed it in the earth. The earth, it helps grip the earth too. It also, though, when you get ready to take it out, it's going to work against you in that you have to do something to break that suction. We're going to show a video on how to get rebar out of the ground in a few minutes. This is a 2.5 inch, 3/4 one. That's pretty good. We use that on some of our light duty stuff. Here's one of our bigger boys right here. Use this to hold things up. This one's 3. I can't even get it in the screen. I don't think this one's 3 feet long, 7/8 of an inch in diameter. This is the real deal here. Now that's a stake. That's a stake. Now look at the end right here. It's got it's got a point on it. And you don't want to have to put that point on there yourself. So when you go to buy this rebar, if you're going to use them for stakes, a good place to go is to a scrap yard that actually sells rebar, and they got a guy there with a torch. And so while he's cutting your rebar to your specs, tell him, hey, cut that at an angle. Now you have two pieces of rebar with the ends already on them. An angle, you can kind of maybe touch that up with a file a little bit. But boy, that saves you a lot of work putting a point on there. So that's one little tip that'll save hours, really. Remember that. This is, I'm pretty proud of that stake. That's held up with many a Christmas light. Now, if you don't have any other way, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's. They've got these, which are, not quite 3/8 and 3/4 in diameter, but they are 3 feet long. They've got some shorter ones, and they got holes in them, too. Makes a real good stake. It doesn't have the ridges like the rebar to help. But that makes a good stake, and they're very economical. I think one of these is about $5.95 or something like that. Good stakes. Straight from Home Depot. Now, if you drive a stake in the ground and you put a little tension on the rascal, and it starts to loosen up on you, put another one down behind it. Just drive another one out in, put a piece of wire, a string, or anything. Oh, a little bit here goes a long way. That's double stakes. And so one gets loose, try that. And that'll really help that first stake out quite a bit. All right, here's how you get rebar out of the ground. Down here in the south with our soil. Now, you guys up there in the north, you're frozen soil. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. You're here up against another situation. But take a wrench, twist the rebar, twist it to break the suction. Remember those ridges on the rebar? That'll break it loose. A couple of turns there. Give a pull, not using your back like I did. Use your legs. It'll slide right out. Now, I'm sure a lot of y'all know some ways to put hot water on them up there in the north, and that might be necessary. Oh, look at my new boat back there, guys. I've been so busy putting up Christmas lights and working for this year. We went fishing twice. Jackie caught one, so I've been skunked already. Well, anyway, let's go to something else. We don't want to get into that topic. All right. So those are stakes, and they work great. They hold, but that's not the ultimate way to hold things up. Earth anchors probably a lot better. And they have a lot more holding power. We're going to show you a few earth anchors. Here's one. It's got a spiral on the end of it. This is a 16-incher right here. All right, you put this one in the ground. It's got some doggone good holding power. That's once you get down, that has pretty good. If you want to do a little bit better, though, here's one that's 30 inches long. It's a 1/2 inch in diameter. Got a nice bottom on it there. Drive that into the ground. You got some serious holding power right here and now.
Twist.
Very serious. What?
You say drive.
Well, yeah, I said drive. That's wrong. Twist. This is not a stake. Thank you. This you drive it in. Now, a lot of you might want to use. They got some that have an attachment here. You can use a drill on it. I don't. I just put a piece of pipe through there and I twist them in. But there, look, there's a secret to that too. I'm going to tell you that in a minute. Here's another one. This is my favorite. This is a 5/8, about 30 inches long. It's a lot thicker metal right here. It doesn't give. The other one will twist. Once you get it in a little bit, it'll start twisting on you. This is a bad boy right here. Doesn't have quite the size here, but once you get it down that deep, you got some holding power. But to help you get that down, take $2 or $3, go to the pawn shop, buy you a long bit. Put it on your electric drill and drill you a pilot hole for about that far, and you'll be amazed at how easy that earth anchor goes in. Now that tip's worth a lot right there, because I fought earth anchors and finally it dawned on me, what if a pilot hole? So I tried it, and they go right in. They don't tear up your grass very much. They go right on in, grab, bite, and they're gone. Cheap bit. You're going to dull it anyway. You don't want to get a new one. All right, so those are helical anchors, and there's other helical anchors. We showed you a few. How about the spiral anchor? You saw it a while ago. Here's one. This is 16-incher from Lowe's. I think about $26 this thing costs. These are great in the right kind of dirt and sandy soil. They tend to not be as good. If you got a clay type soil, they hold very good. The spiral anchor. These come in different lengths and different spirals. All right, now here's a bad boy right here. It's called a claw anchor. Y'all may have seen this thing before. Claw. This is what you use to hold up your Halloween decorations. That's supposed to be a joke. I hope y'all laughing out there. I can't hear you, but anyway, you have some spikes that go in it at an angle, like that. 3 spikes go in. I'm not going to put the third one in. And the more you pull up on it, the more those spikes bite on the ground. I looked at that thing. I laughed at it. No way. That's not going to hold anything. These little nails here, that's oversized nails, all that is. That's going to pull right out. Made a liar out of me. This thing holds. I'm here to tell you right now. This bad boy holds. It's called Claw. All right, Claw. We'll be talking to you later. All right. Now, there's another little gizmo here that is really cute. It is called an arrowhead or bullet anchor. Here it is. It's a piece of arrowhead made out of metal on a cable with a thimble. I'm going to show you a picture of this thing here. Find it. Let's see it. There was the claw. There we go. There's the arrowhead. You can see on the screen, you drive it. It's got a special tool. You drive it in the ground. You pull the rod out, and then you pull on it, and this thing turns flat ways. And I want you to know, you go down about 2 feet with this bad boy, you got this sticking up, it's there. And I mean, it's there. This is a good angle. Good thing you can go at an angle with it. You go straight, go at an angle, and you have that look, and you can even go dig a little hole and bury it and try to find it next year in the grass. It's good to mark them. But anyway, this comes also in a bullet fashion. This arrowhead here is bullet shaped. It's good for rocky soil. And these things are good for 2,000 or 3,000 pounds of pull. I mean, this is serious business right here.
Inexpensive, huh?
Wait a minute. These things are extremely inexpensive. I think $7 a piece. And these are from Earth Anchor, American Earth Anchor. Now, you're going to see that written in a few minutes. You might want to copy that down and Google American Earth Anchor. They got all kind of goodies like this for anchoring stuff. I've had a lot of fun using a lot of this stuff. All right, there is that. Now, you might say, well, look, Brother Monk, that's down there in the dirt. How am I going to get that thing out? You say it's there for keeps. Well, there are retrieval tools for it. Unfortunately, it takes a little elbow grease to do it, but there's the tools it's going to take to get them out of there. So that's some serious anchoring right there. All right, and there we go. American Earth Anchors in small print right there. They make what's called the Penetrator. The Penetrator comes in a lot of different sizes, from 9 inches all the way up to about 46 inches. These are used in industry quite a bit. And these things really hold and bite the ground pretty good. Here's a 9-inch one. It has some holding power. I don't think I would use it for anything in my displays. Mostly that's the corkscrew I use for my wine bottle. Yeah. How about a 14-inch penetrator? Look at that. You don't think that bites? And it goes in the ground easy. You can get it's got a 1/2-inch drive. Put that on there. You get a socket or get a straight one that'll fit in your electric grill. And when that goes in the ground, it's there. If you look on the bottom there, it shows some of the load capacity. I think up to 2,500 pounds. 14 inches deep and 2,500 pounds. Now, it depends on the soil. So a lot of that makes a difference. We hold on to this. I'll show you another one. Here's an 18-inch one. This is an 18-inch, a little bit longer. I forgot something. There is, give me that one back. Give me that 14-inch back. I didn't bring it in here, but this was threaded. The 14-inch was threaded. You put an eye bolt in it, and you put this all the way in the ground. I got an eye bolt sticking up. Worked great. Here's an 18-inch. Goes a little bit deeper. The cable goes around this head right here. You can also drive this in with a 1/2-inch drive, like that. And they get bigger, 26, 48, whatever you need. American Earth Anchors. Take a look at it. They got some good stuff. All right, there's some associated hardware that goes with some of that stuff, like we showed you some turnbuckles. Let's see, we got a spring link. This is called a spring link right here. It's got a little thing that disconnects and just go around anything. These are pretty handy to have. And there's a quick link, the one that you screw together. Okay, shackle. Yep, here's the shackle. I don't use shackles very much because they tend to lopside over just a little bit, and so some of the cable might be here and the other parts over here. I like things that are straight and in line. Then here's a real goodie. It's called a snap hook. And more, I'll tell you, these things are very inexpensive, and this one's good for 300 pounds. I've seen some of the same size. They rated them at 1,000 pounds. I think for $1.92 at Academy Sports, you can get some of these very inexpensive and very worthy. Another little item is helpful to have when you're doing guy wires and just regular snap hooks. You notice this is a correction S hook. You see this one is a pretty heavy duty one. It can act as a spacer sometimes, get things just right. So that's some of the associated hardware with guy wire fun and games. All right, we was talking about guy wire. So you're going to put up a tree, you're going to put up a matrix or something. Well, how many guy wires are needed? Well, for something like a tree, probably 3 at 120 degrees apart, or you put 4 at 90 degrees apart. And you say, well, how in the world now am I going to measure 3 120-degree angles out from my base of my tree? It's not really difficult at all. You go over to Walmart or somewhere and you buy you one of these little things for pretty cheap, little piece of plastic, not too much. Set this thing down at the base of your tree to where the circle's looking out, and you just eyeball the thing. You look across here, you see 30 degrees. Woo! So you run your line out there and you spot you a blade of grass out there. That's my mark, right? And you won't forget that. You won't forget that blade of grass. You go this way, you do another one. That's 30 degrees. Well, that's 120 degrees right there. And if you look right back, straight behind you, that's the third 120 degrees, which makes 360 in a circle. But it's pretty easy to do this. Now, if you're going to do four guy wires, well, you got to do a 90, a 90, a 90, and then straight back is another 90. So this little dude right here is sitting right there. Now, it's a good idea that you can't find that blade of grass out there. What I do, I usually get Jackie to go out there and stand and put a little stop there, and then I know I'm dead on. You don't have to be perfect with this 120 degrees, but it helps. It's always good to get things right. All right. Now what we're going to talk about. Let's see what we're going to talk about. How long should a guy wire be and what angle should it be at? We're getting down to some serious business here now, folks. Serious business. The distance that a guy wire is anchored from the base determines its length and its angle. I'm going to repeat that. The distance that a guy wire is anchored from the base, here's the base, the distance determines its length, which is the hypotenuse of a right triangle, and it determines that angle. If it's in here, the angle will be smaller. So will the length of the cable. All right, this is, like I say, when you see it on the screen, this is seeing the solution of a right triangle, and there's a lot of this on the internet, just tons of, I found one is the Cleve books. One, you can look that up. There it is. Cleave books, right angle triangle. Any two things, put it in there, give you the rest of it. Hypotenuse, other angles, everything. You know, one angle is going to be 90 degrees. So all you're responsible for then is to find one other dimension. They'll give you all the rest of it. That's just how trigonometry works. Guy wire tension. Okay. When tension on the guy wire is combined with that distance we're talking about and that angle, then some interesting factors come into play. And there's some pretty doggone important factors here. Because what's happening here, when you pull tension on that guy wire, that tension is split into two directions. One tension is going straight horizontally. The other tension is going straight down. Now, so it's split in two directions. Now we're going to look at something here. We're going to look at some high mathematics. I say, look at the vector sheet. And I clicked on the vector sheet. There's a vector sheet. A vector is nothing but a line that shows how much. All right, we're not going to get into, this is not a math class for sure. Matter of fact, I flunked algebra and trig in school. I finally passed it after about 4 times. And now I use it every day. Isn't that something? All right, anyway, if you look on this vector sheet here, you see T is equal to tension. That's, you see where it says guy on that first one? And it has 20 pounds down on the bottom. We're pulling 20 pounds of tension. You see an H there, it says horizontal pull. That's horizontally across. And then you look at the pole, that's the vertical push. And I'm using the word push because you're going to see that when you pull 20 pounds on that guy wire at a certain angle, you're splitting the load up horizontally and vertically. Horizontally is helping hold your pole up. That vertical, that weight, that tension you're putting straight down that pole, that's not doing that pole a lot of good. You want a little bit so it doesn't skip out on you. But look, you already loaded that pole up with what? 400 pounds worth of pixels, 500 pounds worth of star. What else you got on the doggone thing? And here, you're going to add more to it. And look, we're just talking one. We got 120-pound pull down there, and it resulted, if you'll see, in this particular 30-degree angle there, about 17 pounds. Multiply that by 3. It's adding up. If you got 4 guy wires, it's even worse. I'll go over to the next one where we're showing a 45-degree angle. See that angle? See that angle right there, 45 degree? You notice it's even on the horizontal and it's even on the vertical. So you pull 20 pounds, you're down there, the resultant force that you're putting on that pole is less. So the more angle you got out there, if you look at the bottom ones, the more angle you got, the less you're putting on that pole. Now, you've already loaded that pole up. I hope it's not PVC because, man, I'll tell you start loading that rascal up, you get, something like this can start to happen. It starts to buckle. Starts to buckle a little bit. All kinds of things happen there, and that's a lot of things that cause collapses of mega trees, overloading. And you say, how much tension should you put on one? Let's talk about that. How much tension for a guy wire? Okay, a rule of thumb of tension for our purposes now for small time things. We're not talking about these big towers you see out on the highway. And I have talked to and interviewed a lot of people that put those towers up. Matter of fact, I bet you there's some engineers out there listening to all that, and this is just nothing to you. This is all second class. What we're trying to do is for the people that are not engineers to make this plain and clear. Okay, so a rule of thumb is the tension the guy wire, so there's only about 10, maybe 20 pounds on it. I think on the big guy wire, they tension them to 10% of the bursting strength of the guy wires, and they have reasons for that. The engineers would know it. So it might be tempting. Look underneath there on the slide there. It might be tempting to add some tension to the guy wire. This could be counterproductive, especially if you have to have a small angle and all that tension you're pulling, a lot of that's going straight down that pole and loading that pole. All right, I'm going to tell you another thing that's going to add to all this on top of your tension. If you put 10 to 20 pounds on it just so that there's no slack and it's pretty tight, all the guys are pretty tight, when the wind blows, it puts its wind load on your prop, megatree, matrix, whatever it is. That's going to add. The wind load is going to add to that tension. Well, where does that go? Whoop, whoop, straight down that pole. You see a 100-mile-an-hour wind pulling on that, multiply that by 3 or 4, how many guy wires you got? You have now, with all of that weight you already put on your tree or mega or whatever you got, you just, the wind just totally blowing this way, put some of that force straight down that pole. And we wonder why mega trees fall. You know, these are things you really have to watch. That angle is very, very critical. You want to get the largest angle you can. So you split that load up going down that pole. Let's see, we got something else here. Wind load. Oh my gosh, we're going to talk to wind. Now look, I've talked to so many people, these sign people, got these big old signs up on the highway, trying to get out of them. Look, how do you know, what are you using, you know, for wind load that you know this thing's gonna stay there? Now, your engineers out there, y'all know all about wind load. This doesn't apply to you, because what we're going to do, we're going to simplify wind load. Wind load is extremely complex. Everything is a variable in it. I'm talking about from beginning to end. It's eaten up with variables. And some of the software out there for wind load is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like I say, I've talked to some sign people. They're pretty tight-lipped on that. They don't want to give away secrets or whatever. Most of them, you say, oh, we know. You know, we know what it takes. And probably there's been some established parameters made now, and so they do know what it takes. But it's hard to get information out of the sign people. Wind load generic formula. All right, let's look at that. It says here, F equals A times P times C little d. All right, F, that means force. That's your wind load. That's the force that's pushing on something. Force that's pushing on something. Don't let all this mess confuse you. We're going to simplify this even more. We're going to go over this a little bit. So the force there is equal to area times the wind pressure times a coefficient, a drag coefficient. Now look, I'm going to get drag coefficient out of this right now, because that's so it's significant at times, but right now, for our purposes, we don't need to know what drag coefficient is. Drag is when you're going down the highway, the wind that you're pulling with you, big trucks pulling with you. And the best definition of drag I ever heard, though, is it's that alimony you pay into your ex-wife. That is probably the best definition of drag I ever heard, and that kind of describes what drag is. So we're not going to talk about drag anymore. All right, so we're going to talk about force and area and pressure. And if you look down here on the bottom, there's a lot of little figures there. It says 10 miles an hour. It's 0.256 pounds per square foot. And what we did, we ran up here, and it says up the top there, it says P equals wind pressure, pound, blah, blah, all that stuff. It's got a constant number there. We multiplied all that out for you. So it's all there, 10, 20, 30, 60, up to 120 miles an hour. I hope you don't get 120 mile an hour wind. If you do, your earth anchor might need to be pretty deep. Anyway, and remember this, the most common factor I've seen of failures of props, the wind blowing them over, not destructing them, that's another subject, but blowing them over is the anchor coming out of the ground. So if you don't get anything else out of what I'm telling you, remember that. What does Mother Nature do? She does more than is necessary. So when you can put an anchor in the ground, you better do more than is necessary. You're playing on Mother Nature's court. And just to stay up with her, you got to do more than is necessary. All right, so we got all these figures right here. We don't want to get involved in all of that. So let's just simplify it. This is a simplified wind load formula. Now, like the engineers probably listening to this out here, boy, you're simplifying it too much. We have to, because it gets too complicated. There's dead weight pressure. There's linear pressure, and the whole thing is measured at 33 feet high anyway. Most of our trees aren't even 33 feet high, so we can't get into all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to call it force equals area times the wind pressure. That's getting pretty simple. Area, I think everybody can compute area. That's you've got something square. It's the length times the width, and that gives you the area in square feet or square inches. Look at that, surface area equals length times width. So that's really the only complicated math here. So if you can figure the surface area on something, you can figure the wind load on it about approximately enough to give you a feel of how much anchor you're going to need to hold it up and the right guy wires and the right angle. Look at the bottom there. Example, one of James's strips. Now, I didn't say James was stripping. I said one of James's strips with 50 pixels. Now, everybody knows what James's strip is. That's those little things with all those holes in them. You're going to punch pixels in. That's where you get all those sore fingers. One of James's strips with 50 pixels spaced 2 inches apart. All right. What's the area of that rascal? Well, it's 1 1/8 inches wide. It'd be 98 inches long, and we're not going to count all the other little holes in there, and it is full of pixels. So if you multiply that out, that's going to be 0.7634 square feet per strip. Let's call it 0.76 square feet per strip. All right, so we're talking with each little strip here now, what we're talking about. So if you take 16 of those strips and you put a 180-degree megatree with 16 of those strips, multiply 16 times that 0.76, you're going to come up with 12.2, I call it 12 total square feet. That's the area. That's the area of that tree. All right, well, if you got a 10-mile-an-hour wind blowing on it, you go down here and you put miles per hour, convert to wind pressure. The wind pressure is 0.256. See that? Multiply 2.56 times 12.2, 3 pounds of force on your tree. So 10-mile-an-hour wind, it's not going to hurt you too much there, unless it's just standing up all by itself. See some of those too. How about a 50-mile-an-hour wind? Now you're going to multiply it. You come down and look at the miles per hour chart there. 50 is 6.4. You're going to multiply the area by 6.4. Oh, 78 pounds of force on that 16-strip tree. Now, all of that force is not being applied equally. It's different at the top and at the bottom. But for these purposes, we're going to say it's the tree. We're going to say it's the tree. All right. How about 70-mile-an-hour wind? If you have a 50-mile-an-hour wind blowing, and all of a sudden it becomes a 70, what do you call that? A gust. Look, it's the gust that gets you. Because there's another factor involved with gust. It's a time element that comes in there that whatever is blowing up can't respond to, and and all your engineers out there, you know about the time factor that gets involved in wind load. Anyway, a 70-mile-an-hour wind, look at that. You multiply it out, got 152 pounds of force. So you got a megatree, a little 180-degree megatree out there. It's got 16 strips on it. It's only 8 feet high. And 70-mile-an-hour gust comes through there and puts 152 pounds of force on it. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want 152 pounds of force pushing on me at all. I'd probably fall over. I'd need some good guy wires. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I need to fix me some guy wires that help me stand up. But you're always coming up with things here as you mess with this stuff. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if your tree is bigger. How about a 180-degree tree with 32 strips and 100 pixels? Well, that'd be 16.5 feet high, and you double the strips. Well, 10-mile-an-hour wind, 12 pounds of pressure, no problem. 50-mile-an-hour wind, 307 pounds of pressure on that surface area. Ooh, watch out. 70-mile-an-hour is 602 pounds of pressure. Now, that's like the whole front line of 2 or 3 2 tackles and 2 guards on the front line of a high school team running through your tree. We're talking now about some serious pressure. So, stuff. If you notice something, how from 10 to 50-mile-an-hour winds, that's increased 5 times. From 10 to 70 increased 7 times. But look at this, it's out of proportion. 12 pounds to that, whoo! That's I forget what it is, 26 times. From 12 pounds to 602, a lot. Look at those ratios. So the more the wind gets, the worse it gets. That's a lot of weight. Our tree, our mega tree itself, you saw a picture of it there a while ago. I computed it to have 1,200 pounds of force on it with a 70-mile-an-hour gust. Let me tell you, that bad boy is anchored down, just never budged. It flaps around a little bit, but just never budged. Anyway, that is wind load that's wind load in its simplicity. And I have very much simplified it. Some of y'all may have some questions about it. Feel free to email me or call me on the phone. It doesn't matter. And if you don't quite understand it, especially with vectors, I want everybody here to understand that angle that you use for your guy wires. The more angle you can get out there, up to a certain point now, the more angle you get out there, the better off you are, because the less load you're putting on that pole. Remember that yardstick bending? Now, here is a way that we worked with this summer, and here is something that might be of some help. You've probably seen these on telephone poles around the country. You drive down the road, you'll see an outrigger sticking out, and the guy wire for that pole runs down and goes straight down to the ground. Let's say you've got a mega tree up close to the house, and there's nothing on the house to fasten your guy wire to. Well, you could use an outrigger like this, and two things happen. It saves space, plus if you look at the angle, the more that outrigger, here, let's look at one of these rascals. We will in just a minute. The more that outrigger is out, the more the angle at the top gets. That also serves as what's called a strong back for that pole. It reinforces that pole, keeps it from bending. If your pole, and there's another thing, when you have a 180 degree or an angular type device, mega tree, so it's not 360, and you got all those pixel strips out there and you tension them, that doggone pole starts to go forward a little bit. Well, you want a counterbalance to straighten that out. This is an ideal counterbalance, and it shortens the distance, as you can see down at the bottom, from the pole to where it's anchored. Incidentally, that's a spiral with what? One of those hard to operate ratchet straps that's holding that. I hope everybody out here can use a ratchet strap now. Nothing to it. Just remember to open it up. All right. So this is what we came up with a name for this thing. That's the wrong slide. Let's see here. We call it the monkey bar. I don't know how I came up with that name, but she came up with it, not me. She really didn't like it, but now we'll call that a monkey bar. But it's a horizontal bar. It directs the guy wire down where space is limited and acts as a strong back. For the upper part of the pole, where the weight and tension of pixel strips bend the pole forward. It's a space saver. Now, this bar is so simple to make, it's not even funny. You go to the hardware store and you buy you a T, a 1-inch T. 1-inch T, you take a little grinding wheel. You can see it. Put that in the light. We can see it. 1-inch grinding wheel for $4 or $5 there, and you grind on that T right here and right there, and you make a little indentation, and that helps. If you look at it, that helps it center on that pole. Then you get you some fittings. EMT fittings. This is EMT, not that old heavy stuff, but EMT, because you're pushing straight back in. EMT happens to have quite a low resistance using it straight. So that fits in there. You get you a piece of PVC. I think that's called a female adapter, 1-inch female adapter. And you take a file and you put you some little grooves in it, and that's where that cable comes down and fits there. Of course, the one I got, this is a short version. The one I got, however long you make that, you're increasing that angle up there on the top. This is held up with some same thing that holds a winch on the ASAP device. Clamps, multiple clamps. Put this on, put two of them, one at the top, one at the bottom, clamp it on, and you clamp it on there. This thing stays there pretty good. It gives you that outrigger, and it'll give you that advantage if you need it. You may or may not need that. I find it to be pretty handy at times. That concludes about all the information we wanted to share with you on this. I've had fun doing it. I hope that you picked up one or two tips. If you just get one thing out of it, it's worthwhile. This fooling Mother Nature and overcoming these winds can be tough, but it's well worth it. It just breaks my heart to see a mega tree laying on the ground, knowing that. And the problem with that, it usually happens right close to Christmas when it's too late to do anything about it to fix it. So take some of this stuff and see if it helps you, and we hope it does. And if there's any questions, we'll now be open for questions. Ed, are you going to step in here and direct this now, or what?
Yep. So there are two questions that I see in chat. The first is, would it be a good idea to use the Penetrator to hold down the base ring for a mega tree?
Use the penetrator for what? To
hold down the base ring on the mega tree.
Yes. Yeah, if you use the right one. And it depends on your soil, the nature of your soil. If you're a real sandy soil, the penetrator is not going to have the bite that a deep earth anchor would have. So you need to match the anchor to your soil. I didn't go into detail. They really got soils classified in about 4 or 5 different areas. And basically the swing on that is how much sand is in the soil versus how much clay, stones, rocks. If you have a predominantly sandy loam type of soil, you can go on the internet and Google soil classes, and you can actually see how they classify them. So it depends on how it'll hold in your particular situation. To answer your question, try one, give a pull on it, and see. That's about the best way, because I don't know your particular soil condition there.
So the next question I see is for us Northerners. Can you discuss the impact of ice as far as weight on a tree and as far as the area in the calculation and what impacts maybe that might have?
Well, obviously it adds. It adds weight big time. It's going to add surface area. So according to the formula, it would definitely add more wind resistance. And to how to overcome that or how to calculate it, I don't have an answer for that. I don't deal with ice that much. That'd be something good for somebody to come up with and maybe get some factors on that, and that would help the whole Christmas light community as a whole.
Okay. Does Walter recommend a particular length of auger type anchors for ASAP poles? I was not able to find any 1 inch or 1 foot rebar or 1 inch rebar, so I used the augers I already had.
What size augers are they?
Hey, Walter, that's from me. I didn't know if we were able to unmute. This is Dan.
Yeah, you can unmute. Anyone can unmute.
Yeah, thanks. I wasn't sure if it did. I had some 8 inchers, and I went ahead and bought a couple 13 inchers last year. It was my first year with my ASAP pole, and I really wanted to make sure I had never done one that big. So I used a combination of 6 and 13 inchers.
That's not big enough.
How much was it?
6 and 13 inch.
Man, that's not enough in my opinion. That doesn't have a lot of holding power. Now, let me tell you, first of all, let me ask you, is your ASAP mounted on a portable hole? Did you say it was mounted on a portable hole?
He's asking. I'm not sure. Yeah, are you using a portable hole?
Okay, we're not hearing you.
Yeah, I don't hear mine. Dan?
Yeah, am I unmuted now?
You're unmuted, yeah.
I'm hitting the wrong button. Yes, I used a portable hole last year.
Okay, let me tell you, and everybody out there, about a portable hole first, before we get into the stake part. The portable hole itself, the portable hole 2, weighing about 120 pounds, of itself has no hold-up power whatsoever. It is a convenient way to get that coupling in there so you can screw a pole into it. It's an inexpensive way to do it using that concrete. It's solid. The coupling is not going to move on you. That weight of 120 pounds and that little 19-inch square, I can stand, and this is actual test, 4 pounds of push will topple it with a 20-foot pole sticking up in it. So the portable hole itself has no hold-up power. It is the roots It is the stakes out there that give it tremendous power, tremendous holding power. So the stakes are what counts. You need some serious stakes out there for the portable hole to work as intended.
6 inch and 12 inch. Not. He said 6 inch and 12 inch will not go to first base. He said.
I wouldn't count on it.
This is 30 inches.
This is a 1.5 feet.
Yeah, I'm talking about the corkscrew type of augers that you can get at Home Depot and Lowe's. Yeah, I was not able to get the. I was not able to get the big rebar. Yes, ma'am.
Get that little one.
Oh, okay.
One
I
like
thought
this?
you were talking about the
One like
rebar.
this. You're talking about one like this?
It's a little different than it. It's orange. It's the ones they sell at Home Depot, but it's a corkscrew type, and it really has good holding power.
Okay, this is a 16 incher, and look at you take the surface area of all that down in the hole. Now that's if you don't destroy the hole going in the ground. If you've got a lot of wobble going, that's why the pilot hole. You drill that pilot hole, this thing will go in there and bite and get on down, and you don't destroy the hole. You want to go straight down, or if you're going at an angle, go at that angle without wallowing out the hole. You wallow out the hole, you don't have anything here anyway. But one of these has a lot of holding power. It is something that you would just have to test for your soil. The way to test it, you saw me on there with a rope. Put your pole up, tie a rope to it, get back and pull on that son of a gun. And then you'll know for sure exactly what you got. That's the only way you're going to know.
It's hard to make that guess because this on a beach.
Oh, yeah, that in sand?
That in sand would not hold anything.
It doesn't have a lot of holding power.
But in clay.
Yeah, and I was concerned last year, no matter what I had in the ground, it rained so much, I was concerned about my stuff pulling.
That's anchors coming out of the ground with the moisture. That's the biggest failure cause. You just have to try it like I did.
Okay, are there any additional questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask Walter and Jackie.
I've got a question on guy wires at the 120-degree angle. I've got some challenges in my piece of land in that in a subdivision, and all the cable and electricity are buried in the front yard. So there are certain areas that I can't drive into the ground. If I cheat that angle, is there any calculation or forgiveness on cheating that degree of angle, so that way I miss those wires buried in the ground?
How about this?
That monkey bar is actually a cheating factor. If you want to go that route, you say you have a 120-degree angle?
No, you were talking about how you're going to take guy wires off of 3 points. At 30 degrees.
Okay. How to calculate your 3 guide wires? Is that what you're talking about?
Right, yeah. You're talking about going off in 3 different directions. Well, I can't go off in 3 different directions because one of those points will
I understand your question.
Hit wires buried in the ground.
So you may have maybe an oddball angle here and an oddball angle. I really don't know the answer to that question. There are factors that come into play that I need to get to my engineer. I have a structural engineer that I often go to for all this. Matter of fact, a lot of this stuff that you're hearing me talk about comes right through a structural engineer. It's backed up. It's not just no boy down in Louisiana making stuff up. That's a good question. Some of the engineers out there might even have some answers to it. I'm sure that it makes a difference somewhat. It obviously, by your common sense, is going to tell you, if it's not evenly distributed, there's going to be some give and take there some way, somehow.
And pretty much where we are, my experience from last year. And here again, I'm using an ASAP pole. I'm not using a portable hole. I took a piece of pipe and concreted it into the earth. Now, granted, you're right, I can't move it. But it seems like where we are in the Midwest, when the storms roll through, they're consistently a western wind that's pretty stiff. So I would have obviously put the first guy wire coming off the western side of that. And with the monkey bar that you showed, coming off the back wouldn't give me much strength because the tree faces north. So the tree faces north, the winds attack it from the west, and the monkey bar would be on the south end. And I don't know if that would give me enough strength against push.
The monkey bar wouldn't be active for that kind of situation. I wouldn't think that it's used for something else.
Right.
The 120-degree angle ensures that one guy wire is always in tension at all times.
Right.
So if you cheat on that and make it 180 on one side and 90 in between that or something, you may not have a guy wire that's in tension and thus not doing anything for you.
That's the answer there. Mm-hmm.
Right, and I understand that. Having seen enough radio towers in my day, I understand that even tension. But with the idea that most of the wind pressure is going to be coming from the west, I would think that one guy wire on the western side of it, which I can easily mount because of the cabling running underneath the yard, I could put something there fairly easily. It's the one that would be to the northeast that would cause a problem.
Yeah, you've got a specialized, complicated situation there.
It might be best to
it would require lots of thought and input.
What I had considered doing is taking those orange spiral devices that you have laying back there and putting those right underneath the hoop on the base of the tree and mounting the base of the tree, tying it off that way with turnbuckles or straps of some degree. That kind of tightness as far as anchoring the base to the earth.
Let me see.
Yeah, that's what I did last year. It was the first time I used an.
Yeah, what Jackie has in her hand. I was thinking about using that.
Exactly what I do. Exactly. My bottom ring will pull right out of the ground. And look, my bottom ring is held up by this large rebar you saw that's going down in the ground about 3 feet deep. The bottom ring is held up by that, the whole ring. And that is not enough with the tension I put on all the strips. That bottom ring starts to come up. And I had to go in with these on each upright pole that's holding the bottom ring. I had to go in with these earth anchors and attach them in order to hold that bottom ring in place. Well, of course, all of that's working as a guy wire system. Oh, you've got the angle of your strips coming down. Remember now, each one of those, that was the old style is good for 70 pounds. The new style is good for more than that. I hadn't tested that new one, but I tested that the old one. I hadn't tested the new one yet, and it's thicker. Anyway, so that's a lot of guy wire stuff. It comes down, connects to that bottom ring. All that makes for a guy wire system. But the whole thing can come out of the ground. And what you're talking about, what you mentioned, is the way to do it. Just take that bottom ring and anchor it down.
Okay.
I was going to use the device that Jackie is holding.
Okay.
This.
Yep.
Right.
He was going to use this.
Oh, you were going to use this?
Yeah, and if you had a choice, which one would you use? Would you? Yeah, it seems like that one.
Pick this one. Absolutely,
yeah, okay.
No question about it, hands down. This is good, but this is not going to ever be this for sure.
Got it.
Okay, so there's a comment in chat. It says, safety note, many, if not all states require that you call to locate any underground utilities before digging or putting anchors in the ground. And someone else suggests is call 811 for dig alert. And that's probably a pretty good suggestion as well.
Definitely.
So,
always call before you dig, always, or put anything in the ground, always.
So are there any final questions for the monkhouses at all?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
When you're building the ASAP pole, at the top of the outer shell where you have the union that you screw the slide adapter into, could you replace that union with a T to make the monkey bar? Then you wouldn't have to add a part.
Yes, you can. You can put anything up there you want to put up there.
That would be a nice solid point if you put an 1.25 inch T there to put that bar on.
But if you put the bar there, if I'm reading you right, if you put the bar there, it won't be acting as a strong back.
Well, if you put a T there, and then you hook the cable to the top, instead of adding the T, just replace that coupling with a T. Because that would be 10 feet off the ground.
Wouldn't the threads become a weak point?
Well, if you replace that with a T, you won't be able to move. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because that would allow the pipe to go straight through the center, and then the T coming, which gives you your arm off the side as a solid point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good observation. Place a T there, and let your inner pole slide through the T. And
just replace the.
Very good idea there.
Yeah, just replace that coupling with a T. Then you could screw an adapter into the T for the arm to come out, or use an 1.25 inch piece of conduit.
Walter, will you walk us through the picture you have there with the T? You know, on the screen, you've got this coming out. So is that a T coming off of that?
Are you talking about, yeah, that is a T. That's actually a T that regular galvanized 1 inch T with a compression fitting screwed into it to accommodate the EMT and to make it stay on the main pole more. You put some grooves in it, grind some grooves in it. Seems to help quite a bit, so it won't move around quite a bit.
Show them the clamp. You got to put the two clamps.
Oh,
okay. So you
regular muffler clamp.
Yep.
I think for a 1 inch T, you would use a 1 3/4. Two of these, put it on there pretty good.
Okay, show them the pipe with the groove, baby.
All right, here is the pipe. Has another compression coupling on it and a female adapter. Use a gray one. I like the gray electrical rather than the white PVC. It seems to work better. And just screw that on there. Take a rat tail file or something and put some grooves in it. I don't know if you can see these grooves. I'm trying to shed some light on it. So the cable slides through that. The cable has to slide just a little bit.
Yep.
And of course, the length of the EMT will be whatever length you want as the standoff. Now, that idea about putting this on top is a grand idea. I have it centered right here, actually centered. So if that's going to be right at the 10-foot mark, so that, and you're saying put a T right there. All right, that would change, let's see, to have a pole slip in and out of that, the T would have to be modified.
Right, you could just, if you use the same size T as the top coupling, which is 1.25 inch, then you could screw your adapter in the top of that to slide through.
It depends on which one you're building. If you're building the senior ASAP, that'd be 2 inches.
Right, I'm building the junior.
Junior is 1.25 inches. Okay,
yeah, just
you would need
the adapter right in the top of it.
That would work great. That's a great idea you have there.
Because I'm backed up to a drainage canal, and that idea there is going to change the angle and really keep me out of having to run 3 guide wires on the back, because the wind comes up the drainage canal and it's totally unabated, because there's like 900 feet of opening between the houses. It's a wind tunnel. The tree's living in a wind tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do to fix that this year. That'll work great. Thank you.
Good. I hope that works for you. And look, your idea there is a great idea. I'm going to look into that too. See just what it would take to instead of clamping the T on, use a T at that location.
Yeah, use a T instead of the coupler.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Great idea.
Yeah, plus it's a little less hardware. Make it just a little cheaper.
Yes, a lot less work. Just put it. But now, I'm still not clear that you still have to have slippage through there.
Right. Use the same slip bushing you would use anyway in the top of that union. In the top of the coupling, screw it in the top of the T.
For the 1.5, yeah, it's a 2-inch T.
Well, use a 1.25 inch T.
Well, in your case.
Yeah, in my case, but in yours, use the senior, use a 2-inch T instead of the electrical coupling, because the thread is the same. It's just electrical tubing has a square thread instead of a taper thread.
That's it.
But the thread count is the same.
Yeah, you're right on the money, and that is a tremendous idea you've come up with. Everybody take note of that. What's your name?
It's Earl Elf. I talk with you quite a bit in Texas.
Oh, okay. Great idea you have there. These things, talks like this always produce ideas, and there's one of them right there. Great idea, and I'm sure there's many come out of this too.
So are there any further questions at all for the Monkhouses? I was emailed one, and the question was for Jackie. Jackie, can you tell us how y'all met?
Yeah, I thought everybody knew that story.
No, I haven't heard the story, so someone emailed me and said, ask Jackie that.
I had a 30-foot party barge that was parked at a local marina, a local lake, and he had a party barge that was parked at the same area, and that's how we met. We were barge buddies.
I had a 20-footer. She had a 30-footer. I liked hers better. Oh, and incidentally, the girl had a Christmas light display. I wasn't into Christmas lights. She had a nice Christmas light display, but it was low to the ground. And, it wasn't anything high, any trees. And so I took a look at it and said, we can do something with this. Well, you can see some little development occurring there. But look, I will tell you, you know how they vet people for the Supreme Court? You know how they ask all the questions and all the vetting process?
Yeah.
Supreme Court ain't got nothing for her. I mean,
He had to know a little about electricity. He had to not be afraid of heights, to be able to get way up high on a ladder. He had to know a little about constructing things. There was a whole list of questions that he had to pass.
I was vetted, believe me.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
That's how we met.
Yeah. Are there any final questions for the Monkhouses? Okay. I want to thank you both very much for joining us tonight. I think you have impacted the Christmas community in so many ways in all of your great inventions and everything you've done, and the sharing and caring heart that both of you have, and the compassion that you have to pay it forward. And it speaks volumes to the character of the people you are. And we just want to thank you for everything you've done. And thank you for the time that you spent with us tonight. And we really do appreciate it.
The xLights project exists because of people like you. Help continue the project by making a donation today at xlights.org/donate.